The relationship between flared ribs and overinflation. So what is this? This isn't a house anymore. This is your lung. Let's use a house as a metaphor for your lung. Now, for most people, isn't it the case that the right side of the lung is less inflated and the left side is more inflated? There's a line like this. On which side can air get in and on which side can't it? Is it this side that can't be inflated now, or is it the other side that can't be inflated? Yes, this side can't be inflated, but where is the rib flaring? The rib flaring is in this area, right? Let me ask you something. Suppose we divide this lung, this house, into 4 equal parts. That way it's split into left and right, correct? Then there's a horizontal line dividing it into upper and lower parts, making 4 equal sections. Out of these 4 sections, which one do you think is easier to inflate? Isn't it here? Where is the air pressure the lowest? Is it here, right? Isn't this the area that's easiest to inflate? There's a line like this, and this area here is the easiest to inflate because it's opened up here. Due to your ribs, when we stand like this, my right ribs are internally rotated and my left ribs are externally rotated. So when the left ribs rotate outward, and since I'm standing on my right leg, the pressure on my right side is higher, so the air moves to the left. My entire left side becomes easier to inflate than the right. As a result, my left ribs here are externally rotated, so the pressure here becomes the lowest. Can you understand this? Because my ribs are externally rotated, the pressure here is lower. This makes it even easier for this area to inflate, which is why many people appear to have a bloated stomach. Actually, it's because your lungs are inflating more, not because your stomach is bigger. So if my entire left lung inflates more than the right, and the lower part of the left inflates more than the upper part, can we understand it this way? Because air flows to areas of lower pressure. In theory, this means the lower part of my left lung should function better, but in reality, that's not the case. Do you know why? Because air can only rush in, but it can't be expelled. When the ribs are flared outward, it means the ability to retract is compromised. They can open up, but can't close back in, so they end up staying open all the time. What happens as a result? The air that fills this part of the lung just can't get out. You can think of it like this. Your house is 200 square meters, but 100 square meters are unusable, leaving only 100 square meters that you can use. Out of that usable 100 square meters, there are 50 square meters where people inside can't get out, so you can treat those 50 square meters as a storage room. So the area you can actually use is only here. Does that make sense? That's why for people nowadays, the utilization rate of the lungs is mostly here. This part can't be used, the air can't get out, and it's filled with stuff inside, so you can't put anything fresh in. You can also think of it as the lower part of the left lung. It's always filled with air that can't get out because your left ribs can't internally rotate. Since you can't internally rotate, you can't squeeze the air out. Your left diaphragm sinks even lower, and you can't lift it up, nor can you squeeze this area out, so this part is wasted. The problem you have here is called overinflation. There is overinflation in the lower part of your left lung. So out of your entire lung, it's like 1/4 to 3/4. You're only using the upper 1/4 of your left lung, and the remaining 3/4 is not functioning well. With that, can your breathing really be good? So how do you get this side's carbon dioxide? But to be used better, you need to be able to close this off. You need to be able to create pressure here. When there's pressure here and the pressure is greater on this side, then you can push air to the other side, right? If there's no pressure here, you can't push air over there. So think about it. What's below the left lung? The stomach. If the lower part of your left lung is always filled with air and pushing down on your stomach, can your stomach function properly? So generally speaking, people with flared ribs have stomach issues. Their stomach function is poor because there's always something pressing down on their stomach. Because of the air here, their ribs can't push it out and their diaphragm can't push it up either. So the air just stays trapped inside, constantly pressing on the stomach. That's why just yesterday, a girl mentioned this. In the evening, during class, she hadn't eaten because the lunch she ate was still sitting there, making her feel bloated even by evening. Do you know why you feel bloated? It's because the space in your stomach has been encroached upon. The space in your stomach is like this. Normally, when you inhale, your lungs move downward, and when you exhale, they move back up, making room so your stomach can hold food. But if your lungs are always filled with air and constantly pressing down, then your stomach has no space left. Its space gets squeezed out. If your stomach is constantly being compressed like this, how could it function well? Of course, you'll experience hiccups. Of course, you'll feel bloated after eating just a little, and of course, your digestion will be poor. So if you really want to solve this problem, you need to find a way to let the air out from the lower part of the left lung. Only when you let the air out will the pressure on your stomach decrease. When the pressure here is reduced, what is it like? It's like if my house can't fit all my stuff, so I put it in your house and don't take it away. I'm taking up your space, and your house becomes less usable, right? That's the idea. Under normal circumstances, it's like I'm just on a business trip, and my packages are temporarily stored at your place. It's only temporary. When I inhale, I just occupy a little of your space for a short while, and when I exhale, it goes back up. So, under normal conditions, the inflation of the lower part of the lungs is because it's connected to the stomach, and it actually helps the stomach function. If this area is completely filled and can't go up, it ends up suppressing the function of the stomach. That's why I told everyone yesterday that everything in the world, all things, must have both cooperation and opposition in order to develop sustainably and last long. If there is only opposition or only cooperation, it definitely won't last. Our lungs and stomach work together in this way. When you inhale, you squeeze me a bit. When you exhale, you give me a pull. That's how it works. But now you're just squeezing me and not pulling me anymore. You're only squeezing. So how could I possibly feel comfortable? This is why so many people, the majority, have stomach problems, because they lack the ability to expel the air from the lower part of the left lung. So generally, people with flared ribs have excessive air trapped in the lower part of their left lung. The air goes in but can't get out. In this situation, once you correct the flared ribs, that's when you'll see the greatest improvement. It's that their stomach gets better and its function improves with no abdominal pressure on the left side. So basically, all your internal organ problems are related to breathing. Some people might ask, what about inflammation inside or stones? How are those related? Let me tell you, as I just mentioned, everything in the world follows the same principles. All methods trace back to the same origin. If a path is left unused, weeds will grow. If water is left undisturbed, duckweed will form. If your internal organs and brain remain inactive, stones will form inside and tumors will grow simply because of lack of movement, because you rarely use them. So for example, kidney stones can be understood as the kidneys not being active enough for a long time. When tumors develop in the internal organs, it means that organ has barely moved for decades. Therefore, when your ribs flare outward, correcting it is definitely not just about appearance, not just about pressing them down to look better. When you press them down, the function of your entire side, your digestive system, and your internal organs all improve. Now, you can understand this house analogy, right? Yes, I probably picked a very beautiful picture to help deepen your impression. That's why I stayed up for dozens of nights, just to give you the best presentation and help you remember more clearly. There's a saying below, if the lungs are rarely used or there are areas that are not used at all, they will atrophy and collapse. Over time, if you can't get air in, then let me ask, which part of the lung is not being used? It's the lower part of the left lung that's constantly filled with air, and the inside of the right lung that can't get air in for a long time. So if you don't fill your lungs for a long time, their elasticity will deteriorate. Later on, even if you want to fill them with air, you won't be able to, or the amount you can fill will be very limited. That's why nowadays, many people's right lungs are atrophied, and the lower part of the left lung is overinflated. Your lungs are already like this, and then you go and smoke, and you keep smoking hard. You end up wearing out what's left of the upper part of your left lung as well. You can think of it this way. Your exhalation function isn't good, so the smoke you inhale can't be fully expelled. That's why so many people's lungs are black to an unimaginable extent. What I'm trying to say is that modern people's lungs already have a very low utilization rate, so you shouldn't further damage them. They're already not working well. If all these parts of yours were functioning well, then fine, your lung function would be good. But nowadays, our lungs are not like they used to be when we did manual labor. You can think of it as now only a quarter of our lungs are functioning well, whereas back when we did manual labor, almost 3/4 or even all 4/4 of our lungs were in good condition. You'll notice that nowadays, lung cancer and tumors in the lungs are much more common than before. Some people say it's because in the past we didn't have the means to do imaging, which is possible, but even with imaging now, the incidence is still higher than it was back then.